Hi there, this is Crystal Forbes with the University of Michigan School of Public Health Careers Office and Office of Student Engagement and Practice. Our webinar that we had about internship requirements and search processes had a couple of technical difficulties on my end, and so I wanted to make sure that we had a good recording of the main meat of the conversation, which was about how to find an internship. So we're going to do a little bit of navigating here to get to how do we get started and to explore that. So before we get started on strategies and timelines, I would like to point out that every timeline and individual will be a little bit different in terms of their process and what they're looking for. Industries recruit at different paces, and there are different opportunities available at different times of years. And so I would encourage you to talk to either myself or your department coordinator if you're struggling with the timeline or not finding the things that you're looking for. Speaking of things that you're looking for, it is important to note that all of our internships are self-driven, and that what that means is that we really want these experiences to not only be something that is required for your degree program, but something that is really beneficial to your own professional development and immersion in the field. And so that starts with thinking about what are you looking for in an internship? Are there competencies you want to explore? Are there skills that you need to develop in order to get the job that you want? Um, and really thinking about like what brought you to grad school and what are you hoping to get out of this experience. We want to make sure that you're getting what you're looking for and that you feel confident to be able to enter the job market once you graduate. So linked on this page, there are a couple links. First, we have the competencies, as I mentioned. These are all 21 foundational competencies as well as departmental links for each of the programs. They are important for our applied practice experiences, which, as you'll remember, are required for our MPH students. And they also can be helpful with thinking about what are the skills and the goals of public health. These are nationally mandated competencies that are standardized for the most part, at least the foundational ones, across programs. And so these are what we know to be the field of public health. There's also two worksheets here about knowing yourself and knowing your work preferences, because it is good to know how do I fit into the workplace and what am I expecting out of this work so that you can really set yourself up for success in an experience and an environment. Thinking about that, when we look for anything and everything, it can be really overwhelming with the number of choices and the number of hits. It can also be somewhat frustrating if you're not finding the things that you're looking for. So we recommend, if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, that's absolutely okay, but having some kind of filter that can help narrow down the process. The two most common are locations and types of work. Both of these are available as filters on the careers portal when you're searching for jobs, and they can really help to identify what opportunities might be out there. So that can either be by position or by organization, both of which are strongly recommended in your search process. A short disclaimer is that we do have some guidelines as a university wide for travel warning and restrictions. So right now during our current pandemic situation, we are not funding any travel for internships. We are having some limited engagements on site, but no one is allowed or funded to travel. So that might change, it will likely change, but something to be aware of is that we do have plans for safety and we do have guidelines around that. So if you have questions, please let us know. As we mentioned in the large webinar, we do have global placements that have been working out remotely, and students every year have a large global representation in their internship, as well as places around the United States, not just in Michigan. So we did a Zoom poll in the live session where we talked about what type of functional area and organization you would like. Hopefully I can get that image to pop up here. But something to think about is that we have representation from all of them. And then we also have a fair amount of students who don't know what they're looking for. So you're not alone if you're in either camp, and we would be happy to discuss more with you as you get on site and as you start your degree program. So a big disclaimer when we're looking is that public health can be a little bit challenging when we're looking at keywords. There are definitely standardizations among the field in terms of how we address things and some common ways that we list positions, but there's also ways that people can describe jobs that are completely unique to each organization. And so a good example of this is thinking about if you're looking for a public health job, This is something that largely turns up most of the time, nursing jobs, which can be really frustrating for our students. However, if students search for more population or community health type positions, this shows up more of what we would expect to be a standard public health position that is interdisciplinary and crosses most of the fields. Of course, we have our standard biostats, epidemiology, health educators that could be tied to each of our departments, but I would encourage you to think about what are those synonyms for either position titles, populations, and maybe even looking by potential employers to make sure that you're finding the results that are interesting to you. So we're going to talk about setting up a search agent a little bit later and how to find these different keywords, but it is something that I wanted to bring up while you were searching in case your initial look around is not identifying the things that you thought it would. All right, so where do we look? Here's a few concrete places that you can use for our public health resources to find positions. The first are our abstract books. So these have been uploaded from a number of years of different internship experiences at our end of year poster session. So these are listed under resources in the documents library, and these are positions that students have had in the past with both their titles, their organization, a little bit about what they did, and in most cases, if they would recommend the experience to others. Next, we highly encourage networking. This is something that our office will talk about a lot. And what we really recommend is taking advantage of the thousands of alumni and that have come before you. These folks can be advisors, they can be mentors, they can be professional connections, and they are really a great resource for you. In addition to our alumni network, we also have a vast network of employers that are listed on our career site. And these are folks that we've worked with, people we know about, contacts that we have in the field, and people that you just might want to talk to and reach out to. Additionally, definitely not to underplay the value that your academic advisor and past mentors could have to you. These people are folks that are connected in the field and they are vested in your interests and would generally like to help you out. Finally, we have this link here, Michigan Experts. It's one of my favorite little known tools at the University of Michigan. This is a website and a database of everyone that is doing research at the School of Michigan in some way. Either they have a grant or they're working on a patent or they have a project or something funded. And it's searchable by both topic and by researcher. So recommend checking that out if there's something specific and you say, I know that no one is interested in that. The likelihood of no one else being interested in that is pretty low. So I would encourage you to check it out and to talk to the people that are doing the work. Speaking of networking, it's something that a lot of times career services will talk about, but not necessarily say, this is how you do it. And if you're like me, it can be really anxiety inducing to reach out and ask for a favor to try to make that connection. So we do have support on how to do this and are happy to do one-on-one advising and to help you to both do the initial outreach and to plan your conversation. But generally speaking, when we are asking for a network or an opportunity to get to know someone, this doesn't start with, do you have a job or can I have an internship? Instead, it talks about what is your interest in talking to this person? What are you hoping to learn from them? How are you going to engage with them? That kind of thing. And so we want to think about first having a brief request that is personalized and somewhat specific, then having a planned conversation with that individual that of course can flow and give and take as you're learning more about them, and then having some kind of follow-up about what that conversation looks like. So again, that's not really the full topic of today, but we do encourage reaching out and building these opportunities. I would say about a quarter of our students every year find something brand new for their internship via their connections or their network or someone that they met through the program. And it really helps them to fulfill their professional goals in a unique way that might not have happened otherwise. A few opportunities for searching are, of course, Michigan Public Health Careers. We do have a job board on there and we'll sometimes send out links via the newsletter for highlighted jobs. That's the biggest connection we have to our employers and the people that we know about for the positions. We also have our special LinkedIn groups and our pages for different departments for the entire alumni group that we would recommend you follow. either for the networking opportunities or for occasionally a job that's posted there. Then finally, we have each of these different opportunities that have various job boards on them. You'll see listed here a couple professional associations that are for largely speaking public health. And of course, there are professional organizations that are applicable to each of the different departments. And then we have our public job boards. You'll notice that Indeed is our first one listed here. That's because it's one of the largest collections of different job boards that we know about. The second one is Idealist, which is primarily nonprofits and government postings. And then we have all kinds of other places that you can look. I do want to talk about the last one here, which is research centers and initiatives. These are places on campus that are doing research in an interdisciplinary way and have some kind of funding or charge from the university. There are a lot of people working on these, and often we have students that find really interesting and engaging projects through connections with those faculty. All right, so the mechanics of the searching. You'll notice that this is what the job portal will look like when you first sign in. There are two options to get to the job postings. One of them is on the top left with the suitcase labeled jobs, and the bottom one comes up when you're scrolling through, and it'll be on the bottom right-hand part of the page. It says SPH job postings. They both lead to the same place, just like to let people know that there's different ways to get there. When you first click on job postings, you'll notice that there are both keywords and locations as our main motivating factor here on how we search for things. But if you click on this, click here to view all filters, we tried to draw it out as much as possible because there are a lot of other search options. So you can search by position type, which does include an internship or an on-campus or part-time work listed there. You have those industries and job functions that we talked a little bit about earlier, where it's either like the type of job that you're looking for or the industry that it might be. And then this more filters here is definitely one that you could pay attention to. It's just one of our fewer used. So once you enter something in and you've clicked search, this box will come up that says create a job alert. And I do recommend clicking that because what it does is it will save an automatic email to you that meets these requirements. And so you can see that it's created. If you go to the job page, it'll say customized job alert notifications, and it'll have a number of how many you've saved. You can have as many as you want, and you can add them and delete them as you will. So this is what it looks like when you click on that, customize the alert. You have this drop down where it can tell you weekly, monthly, or quarterly for the notifications that you'll get. And then there's also a garbage can. If this stresses you out getting emails every week and you don't have time to reply right away, that's cool. Delete it. We don't want this to be something that is a burden. We instead want it to be something that is a tool for you to use. So some things to keep in mind when you're searching are that we want to keep in mind this option to have multiples. So if you're not quite sure what the title you're looking for, the organizations that you want to target, or if there are a couple different areas that you would like to be in geographically, go ahead and set multiple and see what is hitting on the best results. Again, it's a good reminder to know that timelines are very different, and if you're not seeing things right away, that doesn't mean that they don't exist. It means that they're just not posted yet. Typically speaking, business recruits first, and then we'll start to see some government and nonprofit jobs, and then sometime in the spring or in the winter term in January, we'll see a lot of those postings for nonprofit and community-based organizations, in addition to every other industry that there is. It's also important to think about if you're leaving a section blank or not. So it's not a requirement to fill out all of the sections and the filters. In fact, if you don't have a strong preference for one of them or not, we recommend leaving it blank. Finally, it's good to note that if there are employers that you're really interested in, you can favorite them on our careers portal. And so this shows up as a little star next to the employer name, and it'll turn yellow if you've selected it. And then you'll get notifications when these employers do things. All right, so then we did the breakout rooms and they were great. I hope that you enjoyed them. Again, I'll include some contact information for our department coordinators for their resources and how to get a hold of them. But some other notable information. We have this chart here that I wanted to highlight the number of resources that are available to you at each and every stage. So as you'll note, it begins with this planning. This is where we are right now. We're thinking about what are the requirements? What am I interested in? How am I going to meet my goals for grad school? And then we move all the way through to the wrapping up of the placements. And so if at any point in your time you're feeling like you don't know the answer or you don't have the resources you're looking for, I please encourage you to reach out to myself or one of the internship coordinators or your faculty advisor or someone that can help with those feelings. We never want students to feel like they're alone or they're without resources, because we care about you and we're definitely here to help. The next one is about funding. So this is a question that happens every year, and I can tell you that about half of public health internships are not funded. And if you are doing a project, it is likely that it will not be funded at all. And so we want to think about what are your personal requirements to be able to do paid or unpaid work. If you're like myself in grad school and you absolutely have to be paid for your internship over the summer, it might be the case where we have to think about what are my different goals and what am I able to be flexible on in order to be paid. So for me, that meant I had a little bit different of a description than what I was looking for in a location that I had never been to. It worked out great. I learned a ton. I found a fantastic group of professionals, and I really loved my job in the city that I was in. However, it's not something that I would have looked for right away. And so it can definitely be a good thing to keep those doors open to opportunity, but we do like to be clear that there are a lot of unpaid internships and the funding is limited for these from both the school and from the university. About 80% of our people do get funding from somewhere across the university, but it's often not a ton of money. And so we like to be transparent, and we can help you think about that as the time gets closer. But first, we want to think about starting with what are my goals and objectives, and then we can move towards the funding. The last thing to think about is something that is very far in advance right now, but one of the things that can really be a barrier to internships is legal agreements that need to be signed by the school. They take a long time to process, like long time in terms of like 8 weeks or more. And they don't go through just our school. They have to go through the Office of General Counsel for the university at large and through the provost office. And so this is something that I like to get out to students early and often, is to ask, as soon as you get a position, I need you to ask, is there anything that has to be signed by my school? We don't need you to go through us if you are signing things individually or if it's just you signing it, but if there needs to be something signed by the school, by your faculty, it needs to come to me, Crystal, first, so that we can help you process through that. So that was it on the main parts of the content. Of course, we are here for questions, and we hope that you can continue to engage with us throughout your time, and we're really excited to meet you. So thank you for joining on this supplemental recording, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.